If this broadcast had a title, something like Alfred Hitchcock, it would be called The Widow's Mask, When Grief Becomes a Political LARP. Now, before diving in, my friends, it helps, I think, to define the term being used here, because LARP gets its acronym, a true acronym. It gets thrown around loosely, sometimes I think incorrectly. LARP stands for, of course, live action role play. And in politics and media culture, it doesn't mean something is fake or that a person feels nothing. That's not what it's about. It means someone adopts a highly stylized public role and performs it consistently, consciously or not, in a way that prioritizes narrative, symbolism, audience response, the role, the affect, over spontaneous human expression. A political LARP is not about lying. It's about performance discipline. You see, that distinction is very important, and that matters when discussing Erika Kirk. Because as you've probably seen, the suspicions are unraveling faster than you can keep track of them. After the assassination of Charlie Kirk, the country watched in shock. A prominent conservative figure, loved by a new generation, was killed in public. The expected aftermath would be chaos. Fragmentation, emotional volatility. Instead, what emerged almost immediately was something else entirely. It was this kind of a weird form of coherence, messaging, poise, a public persona, always the same, Stepfordy, in a very exaggerated way. Not exaggerated, but mournful, lugubrious, funereal, lacrimating. And she appeared almost fully formed within days. Erika Kirk stepped forward, not as a shattered private citizen retreating from the spotlight, but as, and this is critical, a composed public figure moving confidently into it. Her statements were most articulate, almost rehearsed, emotionally precise, perfect. Her tone was calm, resolute, and consistent. And her social media presence, it transformed almost overnight into something that looked less like personal processing and more like brand ownership or stewardship. It was a brand, faith, forgiveness, continuity, strength. The grieving widow with a message, always with the same, almost identically, little things. The performance, and I'm not saying it wasn't real, I'm just saying, but even the movement of the hanky or the handkerchief or whatever it was. Some people have suggested it might have been soaked in camphor or something in order to cause lacrimation or tearing. I'm not going that far. But this is where the LARP critique begins. You see, the argument gaining traction is not that Erika's grief is fake. It's that the version of grief presented publicly is curated and rehearsed and performed and deployed as messaging. You see, what audiences are reacting to is not sorrow itself, but its presentation. It feels engineered. It feels optimized. It feels unusually controlled for someone navigating sudden, violent, catastrophic loss. From the earliest appearances, a pattern emerged. The language repeated. Phrases returned with mantra-like precision. God's plan. Forgiveness. We will not be divided. These aren't spontaneous utterances. They are message anchors. They're the kinds of phrases designed to stabilize a movement, not express private anguish. Her media schedule reinforced the impression. Appearances rolled out with almost surgical timing. High visibility outlets, friendly platforms, carefully framed conversations. Each moment felt intentional. Lighting, wardrobe, makeup, posture, emotional beats, all. And it seemed calibrated. Didn't you notice this? There were tears, but they arrived without loss of control, vulnerability, but never collapse. Observers noted something subtle but telling. The absence of what psychologists sometimes call uncontrolled grief. No visible disorientation. No emotional spillover. No moments where words fail or composure breaks. Never. Instead, there was steadiness, resolve, consistency. For supporters, this was strength. For critics, it raised questions. Social media became the center stage. Soft, focused photos paired with scripture. Smiling images emphasizing resilience over devastation. Calls to continue the mission. The personal and the political blended seamlessly. Mourning and messaging became inseparable. One moment in particular crystallized discomfort for many viewers. A symbolic recreation at the site of the assassination framed visually for public consumption. It's weird. And then, by the way, using the actual the canopy or whatever as a selfie, but that goes into the tacky category. Now, some call this brave. Others found it unsettling. And you might find this problematic, but I want you to be honest with this. The shared reaction wasn't outrage, but confusion. The question people kept asking quietly was simple. Is this how grief usually looks? There's something not right. People know this, especially women. Especially women. Very astute. There's something wrong with this. Something's not there. Something inauthentic. Something synthetic. Then came the forgiveness declaration, delivered publicly and calmly within days. Forgiveness is a core Christian value, but even deeply devout believers often describe it as a long, painful process, not an instant achievement, not an instant announcement. The speed, certainty, and the polish of the statement struck, I guess, many of us, whatever, as, again, performance-based, performative, choreographed. It not because forgiveness is wrong, but because it appeared prepackaged, part of the act. This is where the LARP framing sharpened. The role being played was not widow and mourning. It was symbolic moral anchor, the keeper of tone, the stabilizer of narrative, the embodiment of virtue under fire. And once that role is assumed, it must be maintained. And it was. Criticism, skepticism, or even mild questioning was swiftly framed as cruelty or moral failure, as usual. And doubt became disrespect. Any questions of what is it? How dare you? Curiosity became attack. That maneuver isn't about protecting personal grief. It's about controlling the narrative and narrative space. When questioning optics, when questioning performance is treated as sin, the public conversation closes. Sound familiar? Just like with Candace. Don't bring that up. Don't you understand? She's crazy. She's a nut. That response pattern is so familiar in modern political culture. Emotional authority becomes a shield. And once someone occupies a sanctified role, dissent can be dismissed without the engagement. You see, the result is narrative lockdown, body language analysis, both amateur and professional, whatever that means, poured in. Observers pointed out the consistency of posture, the controlled facial expressions, the lack of involuntary emotional leakage, they call it. Whether you take this analysis seriously or not, I don't know, but the fact that so many people felt compelled to analyze it, not because they were trolling, but the fact that they were there all weighing in at all is itself telling. Something about the performance triggered scrutiny. Another factor fueling the LARP critique is what is called trajectory. Erika Kirk didn't retreat from public life. She expanded into it. Her role within organizational leadership grew immediately. Her visibility increased. The shift from private individual to public figure appeared seamless, without hesitation, without nothing. It was incredible. Too seamless, some say. Too seamless for someone supposedly overwhelmed by grief. Again, defenders say this proves strength and purpose. Okay, fine. But critics say it proves preparation, inauthenticity, a lack of surprise, and I'll leave it at that. At the center of the controversy is a simple observation. Grief, when lived, is chaotic. You're overwhelmed. It's a tsunami. Grief, sorrow, when performed, is orderly, always precise. And what the public saw was order. This doesn't mean Erika doesn't feel pain. Of course not. It means pain has been subordinated to role. You see, the role demands consistency. The role demands clarity. The role demands emotional discipline. See, that is what people mean when they call it a LARP. The deeper issue is not Erika Kirk as an individual. It's what happens when personal tragedy becomes inseparable from political, again, I keep using the word narrative. In the current media environment, grief is not just experienced. It's consumed. It's shared. It's framed. It becomes a content vertical. When mourning is monetized and optimized and scheduled, the line between human being and political symbol blurs. And the audience senses that blur obviously and instinctively. You see, discomfort follows. This is the unease. This is like, what's going on here? And supporters of her argue that she's honoring her husband's legacy and protecting a movement in crisis. Fine. That's a fair interpretation. A lot of that is true. But others, critics including, argue that the cost of the protection is authenticity, and it produces inauthenticity. That's also fair. You see, the LARP critique lives in that tension. It's not an accusation of deception. Let me be very clear. It's an accusation of performance. It says that when the public is seeing, what the public is seeing, is not the raw grief unfolding in real time that you would expect from a person, but it seems almost like somebody referred to this as a curated avatar designed to stabilize, inspire, and control. And once people start asking whether they are witnessing mourning or method acting, trust becomes fragile, if not all but disappearing. In an age where politics, my friends, rewards performance more than honesty, even grief is expected to stay on script. Erika Kirk may well be grieving deeply in private, and we are not questioning that at all. But the version presented to the public feels less like a person breaking and more like a role being executed with remarkable precision. It keeps spinning better and better and better as the grief tour rolls on. And that's why the reaction has been so intense. It's not because people doubt pain, that's not it again, but because they doubt presentation. And once doubt enters, the mask becomes visible. Now, my friends, I want you to think about this very carefully. And ask yourself, does this make sense to you? Do you agree with this in the least? Do you find this? Again, I know people are going to misunderstand this. I recognize this, and I understand it. You're going to see it. You're saying that I'm mocking her, that I'm laughing at her, that I'm not doing that. Nobody's saying that. That's not what we're talking about. But understand something. We are participants in this as citizens and as civilians and as fans and acolytes and perhaps lovers collectively of Charlie and his memory. A lot was lost that day. And we can ask these questions. And if you don't like those questions being asked, I'm sorry. But you have just assumed the position. You took no time off. You have stewarded the helm. That's it. And we can ask these questions. And we're not going to ask anybody for permission to ask. That's all. So I thank you, my friends. I thank you. Thank you for watching this. Thank you for watching this. Thank you for listening to me. What do you think Listen carefully to what I said. Send this to somebody. Watch it again. I'm not saying she's a fraud. I'm not saying that. That is not it. The LARP is performative, performance. It's not inauthentic. It doesn't mean fake. What do you think, my friends? Please, do me a favor. Like this video, I ask you. Please subscribe to our channel, our noble channel. Hit that little bell so you're notified of live streams and new videos. And I've got some questions for you. Questions for you to ask. Because again, what I do is I love to explore everything. The issues, the tough issues, the hard to get to issues, new takes, new perspectives, nuances. That's what I appreciate so much. I thank you for following us here at Lionel Nation. Oh, and I thank you so much for following my wife at Lynn's Warriors, fighting for children. And I will say one thing about Charlie and his wife. They always kept their children out of social media, and I respect them for that like you cannot believe. Now, my friends, it's time for you, as I always say, to listen to what I've said and to comment as you see fit.